Hi folks, welcome back to another episode of RDR. Pretty special episode today. A few things. I've moved into a new place again, so apologies for the lack of episodes the past few weeks, but all set up, all good to go. And I also have a new addition to the family. Right there. So, in the course of moving, I actually picked up a ThinkPad T43 laptop. I got this from a sweet old lady in town here who gave it to me at a price that I couldn't not go get it. It was just, I didn't test it, I didn't do anything, I just picked it up from her, and she was very nice, and she gave me such a good deal that I thought, well, if it doesn't work, I'd not out that much. So here it is. The good news is, it is in incredible condition, and I have yet to find a single flaw with it. So, the T43, why do I want this laptop, or why did I want this laptop? Why do I have this laptop? This was the last ThinkPad, the T43 and T43P series, to come out from IBM before Lenovo took over. These dropped in April of 2005, and from what I can tell, that was it. There are laptops that still host the IBM emblem, like the T60 series, for example, and T61. It looks like Lenovo kept that logo through a few series of their laptops, which still resemble and still act very much like a IBM ThinkPad. So there's a lot of, in my opinion, I should say, I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but for me, this is the last true IBM ThinkPad because it's the last one to come from IBM. A lot of people will say that the T60 series is actually the last true IBM ThinkPad, even though it's from Lenovo. They're very much still an IBM ThinkPad at heart. And I would definitely still take one of those, just the prices on those are a little bit higher than I'd ever want to pay. I always see them for sale though. I shouldn't say always, I see them for sale more often than not. Not always, but they pop up now more often than not. But most people demand a higher price than you would expect. Same with these, and I don't see these that often. And when I do see these, they're in terrible condition. So to find this one in such good shape with actual OEM charger and working battery, sort of, it was pretty incredible. This originally had Windows XP on it. I reformatted it to Windows XP, but that just it wasn't working out as well as I had hoped. I had a lot of issues getting XP on the ThinkPad X23 as well, and this was no different. And I was kind of tired of it, so I thought, well, I already got a ThinkPad with Windows XP on it. Technically, this is a couple years newer, or at least a year or two newer than the ThinkPad X23 I own, so I thought it was only appropriate to put Windows Vista Ultimate on it. I know, Windows Vista. Why would I do that? Well, one, getting it online with Windows Vista was a piece of cake. It has a built-in Wi-Fi. I don't actually have to use the PCM, CIA, I cannot ever say that word. I didn't have to use the Wi-Fi card to get it online. I just got to use the built-in Wi-Fi, which worked like a dream, which wasn't working so hot with XP. And there was just very little setup after that, except for 2 days worth of updates, which you can only imagine took forever. I thought this thing froze up 1 or 2 times. I thought when I was putting Vista on there because of a massive amount of updates. Well, I'm happy to say that it's up, it's running perfectly, and this thing is running games that I could not get to run on the Compact or the ThinkPad X23. So it has been a blast messing around with this thing. Before we jump into the OS that is installed and take a look at the software, let's take a look at the hardware. So here it is, the ThinkPad T43 in all of its glory. You will notice that there is nothing missing on this computer. There's not even really many scratches, even on the back surface, which is hard to find. The type of material used on ThinkPads is this rubbery type substance, and it's hard to kind of portray on camera, but this stuff crumbles over time extremely easily after, far beyond just basic wear and tear. Just time itself just is not good to this material, and probably a good reason why this material doesn't really exist on ThinkPads. anymore that I'm aware of. Here, let me check my girlfriend's real quick. Yeah, doesn't have it. So she has a much newer ThinkPad than this one, of course. So here it is. We have a ThinkPad T43, the last original IBM ThinkPad. You'll notice a little bit of wear on the mouse here, on the mouse pad, which is to be expected, but all these buttons work great, everything works great. I did replace, of course, the trackpad button. The signature little red dot there was just in this horrible disarray, so I threw that away, and I had plenty of extras, so easy to replace. They pop out, you pop them right back in. One thing I do love about this is I finally have a ThinkPad with the signature purple return button. The ThinkPad X23 is an all black keyboard that does not have that, and it's kind of a bummer, honestly. I don't know why it doesn't exist on that one, but it does on this one. But either way, I love the ThinkPad X23 for what it is, a great business laptop. This does have a finger card reader, which I did get the newest drivers for, but I do not have working yet, and I am going to try to figure out how to make that run and see if I can with Windows Vista. I am really not sure, but the signature finger reader right there, and of course the lovely IBM ThinkPad logo that I just absolutely love. We got your basic indicator lights down there at the bottom, you know, built-in Wi-Fi, caps lock, you know, num lock, battery, hard drive, sleep, and that's about it. So, power button, the access IBM button right here, which I kind of love. It's kind of like your instant access during startup to be able to get to all those features before you load into an OS, which is really cool. So there it is. As far as ports go, this does have a DVD-ROM drive that works great. I did clean it recently with a disk cleaner that I have, and man, that made this thing 10 times better than it was running originally. It was a little bit dirty, and I had noticed, so that's fantastic to find that it just needed a good cleaning. We have the VGA right here. Opposite here we have headphone and microphone, basic ports there, a fan port, a nice card reader slot that I can never pronounce. We have S-Video as well, as it still has a dial-up and Ethernet. I did use the Ethernet to get all the updates for this, just to be safe. We got two USB, looks to be 2.0 ports right here. On the back, we have power and serial port. Also have the sleep and battery indicator on the back of the cover as well. So when it's shut, you still have access to those as well, which is kind of nice. So that's about it for hardware, pretty basic. Let's go ahead and take a look at Windows Vista Ultimate on this thing, and I'll show you a little bit about what I've installed so far. So here it is. When can you say you saw a copy of Windows Vista Ultimate running fresh and new? This is just installed about a week ago and fully updated and in its original state for the most part. I've done very little to customize it because I kind of have been enjoying using these operating systems on these other computers in the form that they're exactly supposed to be in, with the exception of changing some start menu stuff, because I really hate all the start menu stuff. I like the classic Windows start menu, which you'll see here is just this. I pretty much changed it from that huge expanded view that came out with, I believe it was Windows XP, and I stick to the classic because it's simple and it's just simple. That's all you need is simplicity with the start menu. So here it is. This is running the latest version of Firefox I could get, which isn't too bad. And actually, this thing is fully functional online. I have no issue running YouTube or pretty much anything for that matter on this thing. You could pretty much still use this in this form as a functioning laptop for the most part, which is pretty crazy. It loses a little nostalgia since everything on the web does load perfectly compared to like the ThinkPad, where I'm using a Windows XP with a very outdated version of Opera and Chrome. Most stuff just does not load, and there's not a way to get a better version on there that I can find. So a little bit of a nostalgic loss there, but at the same time, it makes getting stuff for this computer so simple. And that is nice. I will say that is very nice. So I have loaded up so far GTA 3, which plays fantastically on here with a little screen tear, but I gotta say it looks really, really good. So it's definitely playable, to say the least. I have Myst Masterpiece Edition, which of course plays perfectly, and it's still pretty fun. A nostalgic kind of, it's a big dive into my nostalgia. That game was one of the coolest games I ever saw, the original Myst. So I actually have recently acquired Myst, Riven, and then what is the Exile, I believe. Riven and Exile are still sealed, so I haven't even opened those up. I found those at the thrift store not that long ago on my last run. I have X-Wing Alliance on here, which is a lot of fun, but having issues getting past the first mission, so that's a story for another time. And one of the coolest things that I got to run on here was The Sims 2. Now, I know The Sims is super nerdy, but the reason I've been trying to get that to run is it is the one version of the game that I've never played or had the pleasure of playing, because I never owned it when it came out in 2004. This is a perfect computer to play it on because it's right on the cusp of the realm of when it did launch, just after actually. And this is a game that is tough to get to run on anything that I have, and troubleshooting getting this to install on like XP and stuff is pretty well-known issue on the internet. You look it up, you'll see there's tons of people trying to find workarounds to get it to work on that operating system. Never got it to work on, of course, Windows 10 incompatibility mode or anything at all. And since I do have a physical copy of it, I just wanted to get it to work on something, just to see what the difference was between the first one and the second one. And it works great on here, and it's kind of a huge jump from the first one to the second one. So the one thing about those games is I've always enjoyed the building aspect of them. I've never really enjoyed playing them beyond that for very long, because it's just repetitive, obnoxious, and it gets really boring. To the point where, while I appreciate what it does, and I think it has the best house builder mode you could ever ask for, the playability of The Sims, though, is like just doing what you would do in everyday life. So why don't you just do it in real life? You know, for the most part. I mean, of course, you probably won't in real life be able to own a mansion with a pool that goes underneath your house like you can make in The Sims, which is cool. But I mean, still, you can still go to a swimming pool. So let's back away from The Sims here. The good news is it works, and it's really fun to build stuff in that, just like it is in all the games. Another game I finally got to work is Combat Flight Simulator 3 from Microsoft. A fantastic World War II flying game. So that works fantastically, and it's tough, and I'm actually pretty pumped to actually kind of understand how to play it so I can start doing some missions. I got Triple Play 2001 to finally run on here. This would not run on the ThinkPad X23 or Compact. Runs on this with zero issue. Pretty fun game, pretty basic baseball game, but I've always really enjoyed PC baseball games, so that's pretty cool. And then, of course, I had to install an old version of Winamp. This is because this version with this skin is a super nostalgic throwback to the 2004-2005 era for me. And before, like between, I would say 2002 to 2005, Winamp was my music player of choice for CDs, and really, just absolutely loved it. Played all my MP3s through it, and it's a very simple player that really drew the attention of everyone for that very reason. It got bought out by somebody at some point. I'm not sure on the technicals of that, but here it is, it works, and I listened to a bunch of Metallica CDs that I haven't gotten to listen to in a long time, right here on this computer, and it was as great as it could have been, and all the visualizations and stuff that are just, it's a really nostalgic throwback, so really pumped to have that. Other than that, there's not much else I've done. I've just thrown those games on this, updated it, played some music out of it for fun, looked at some old visuals, and I'm just stoked to have it running this well, and I have now a stockpile of software that didn't work on the other computers I own that I am very confident will likely work on this. One last thing to note before we go here is, let's just take a look at the specs that exist on here. Using Specky from Puriform here. So we are rocking a Intel Pentium M740, Windows Vista Ultimate 32-bit software. It's got a gig of RAM installed. IBM 1875D6U motherboard. For graphics, we have nothing to really brag home about, but the chipsets that are in here from Intel definitely do a pretty dang good job, so I cannot complain about that. It's got a 93 gig storage drive. It is an aftermarket drive. It is not the original OEM hard drive that came with this. I know because there's a message that pops up every time I start this up telling me that it's not authorized to work in here or something along those lines, and it works just fine. We got the Toshiba DVD-ROM, and then a SoundMax integrated digital audio. Just a little bit further here. It is a 1024 by 768 screen, running at 60 hertz. And you know, there's not a whole lot else to say about this. Runs off a Intel wireless card. And everything else is pretty irrelevant, in my opinion. But there it is. Works great. Runs great. Starts up like on a dime. It's just fantastic. I couldn't be more. I could not have found a better ThinkPad T43 in my opinion for the price. I just couldn't have. It was one of those things where it fell into my lap, and I'm just very lucky and very fortunate and very happy that it happened. So, plan to see more of this. Really hope to start a series on this. We'll see though. I think I'm going to be a little careful about how many computer series I make because, you know, those videos are hit and miss with most. So we'll see what happens here. But I just wanted to introduce it, go over it, and just show you a little bit about IBM's last true ThinkPad. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day.